I got my hands on the Me Espresso Sweet Tooth perfume from Sabrina Carpenter, and you guys, the girls are already split on their opinions on this fragrance. So we're gonna do a quick rundown on what I personally think, and I would love to hear what you think of this release. So I have had this for about 2 weeks. First of all, can we get into the bottle? I'm absolutely obsessed with the entire Sweet Tooth line bottles. I feel like my inner child is so happy to have a chocolate bar perfume in my collection. This baby blue color is absolutely everything. I tried to give a little matchy today. So I got this one from Scent Beauty. I did not get it straight from the Sabrina Carpenter website. That was my first time shopping with them. It was amazing shipping. I even used a code and then I ended up using my shop cash. So I got this one for about $40, but I think this one retails for $75, and this one is the 2.5 fluid ounce or 75 ml, and you guys, it is huge. Like, it's almost as big as my head. So like I said, I have had this for about 2 weeks. I did test it on skin. I've tested it on strip. So let's get into the notes. The notes are espresso, cappuccino, cocoa, biscuit, jasmine, vanilla orchid, whipped cream, caramel, and amber. So just from the sound of those notes alone, people just thought that they were going to be absolutely in love with this. But if you haven't seen, there has been a thing going around that this smells like grape soda, and I don't really get grape soda. I don't know if it's because I don't drink a lot of grape soda, but I also don't really enjoy grape anything, and I feel like if this smelled like grape soda to me, I would definitely have a more adverse reaction. So I'm going to spray a little bit on the skin. And immediately when I first spray it on the opening, I definitely get that espresso or that cappuccino note. It's like a darker, bitter coffee coming through, but then it immediately goes into the cappuccino where it's like a more fluffy, caramelized, rich coffee. I definitely do get the caramel in this. And then there's, like I said, a dryness that comes from the biscuit. So the biscuit kind of brings like a dry powderiness to it. It's not foodie and overly gourmand, but you do smell the biscuit and almost like a bread-like feel. Maybe like having a cappuccino in a bakery that has like different baked goods in it, and then you have your little biscuit that is dipped into your cappuccino. That's kind of what that biscuit smell is. Then I get the jasmine and the vanilla orchid. The jasmine isn't too indolic. It doesn't get scratchy, because sometimes for me jasmine does get a little bit scratchy, and the vanilla orchid just really adds this nice vanilla floral tone to it. I feel like the whipped cream, caramel, and vanilla orchid add this like airy, fluffy, sugary texture to it. I don't really smell too much of the cacao. It doesn't really stand out as like a solitary note, but maybe mix in with the cappuccino. I do feel like when you first spray this, it is a little bit polarizing, because you're expecting one thing by looking at the notes, but you get another thing when you spray it. But as it dries down, it becomes a little bit more wearable and tolerable. And I will say, this isn't my favorite in the flankers of Sweet Tooth, but it's also not terrible. It's more so a like right now, and it's killing me because I don't really like to keep just likes in my collection, and I'm not sure that this fragrance is going to change anymore with time. But I will say my fiance does like this on me. He did not recommend that I get rid of it. He said it wasn't that bad, but I don't really know that that means that I should keep it. I will say it creates a really nice scent bubble. It does last a lot longer than all of her other Sweet Tooth perfumes. It is more complex, but unfortunately I am a lot let down by this fragrance. And I know I'm not alone, because when I tell you the reviews are split, there are kind of like very few people that are actually truly loving and enjoying this perfume. And I feel like the rest of us either don't like it, or we're just tolerating it, or we want to keep it for the blue bottle. And I'm kind of in the tolerating it and keeping it for the blue bottle. I'm not even sure if I would just reach for this to go to sleep or to feel cozy and comforting, because the coffee makes it not so comforting and not so cozy. I saw someone compare this to the smell of walking into a Barnes & Noble's that's attached to a Starbucks, and I can see the comparison because my Barnes & Noble's is attached to a Starbucks, but to me, the smell of that almost smells better than this. To me, this kind of more so smells like being in a mall rather than a Barnes & Noble, and you're walking past a coffee shop and maybe you walk past a perfume counter, because it's perfumey with a little bit of coffee, but the coffee quickly dissipates. I feel like the coffee is only there for the opening. I'm not even sure that the Sweet Tooth line has samples. You probably will have to find a decant on a Facebook group or Mercari or something like that, but when I say that you need to sample this fragrance, I highly recommend you sample this fragrance. What I'm mainly picking up is biscuit, jasmine, a little bit of caramel, and a little bit of cappuccino, and I just don't know how this would fit into my collection and me fall in love with it, or me really want to wear it, or me just keeping it rather than it being like a centerpiece and a beautiful piece in my collection. I do get about 4 to 6 hours from this, leaning towards the 6-hour side. It lasts pretty long on skin, and it lasts even longer on clothing. And to round it out, I would probably have to rate this like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and I'm leaning towards a 5 because I've never really been this split on a fragrance, and I think what's making me split is how beautiful the bottle is and how I really do like a lot of the other fragrances in this line. Even though I don't own personally any of those fragrances, I ended up decluttering the caramel one. I tried the original one, but I didn't find it special enough to enter into my collection, and I just completely skipped over the cherry one because I'm kind of over cherry fragrances. So I'm just maybe thinking it's the line that doesn't work for me, but I really like the bottles, and I do like Sabrina Carpenter. I'm not a huge fan. I barely know any of her songs other than the ones that are popular, and I'm always preaching about how not to just keep something in your collection if you don't love it, because there are so many other fragrances that could take that spot that you would absolutely fall in love with. So I'm like really trying to fight my own advice right now. With a song as iconic as Me Espresso, I was really expecting an iconic fragrance, and better yet, I was expecting something to match this bottle. I would have even loved a blueberry fragrance, or like a different take on something espresso, or a different take on a coffee fragrance, but this is just a letdown for mostly biscuits and floral. And as I smell it more and more, I'm kind of disliking it, so I probably will end up decluttering this, or I probably will just gift it. I don't really know how this will declutter, but I'm gonna keep it for a little bit longer. I'm gonna give it a few more tries. So yeah, that's my final consensus on Me Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. I would definitely say try before you buy, or just be willing to take that risk if you blind buy. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Mwah.